Well, ladies and gentlemen, take a screenshot because this is as close as you will ever see to me and Barry being twinsies. If I didn't have so much to do today, Barry, I would have gone downstairs and changed my shirt. But this is my second recording today, and I still have another one left before I get to preparation for Yom Kippur. So, whatever.
I woke up thinking, you need to wear that shirt today to record it.
Okay.
It's a Ruach thing.
Okay. No, I got in my closet and went, okay, there's the first one I grabbed. So, okay, that's it. Barry, we had a interesting something that happened this past Shabbat. Our guys were downstairs praying prior to service, as we do, and I know you guys do the same thing. And one of our men, Alex, said something that was very profound. He said, he was talking about in his prayer that, Father, these are trying times and can be chaotic times, but there are times. These are our days. And so these are the times that we have been asked, actually, we have been thrust into, because none of us were actually asked to be born right now. We just kind of found ourselves here. And so that takes us to a thought going into Yom Kippur. And I think it's kind of appropriate to be looking at these scriptures in 2 Timothy chapter 3 that we're going to be talking about for a little while, I would imagine. Of the word in the way that David Stern translates it is this: moreover, understand this, that in the Akarit Hayamim, in the last days. Now, if we read it in as last days, we could actually miss some things. And maybe going in and researching it a little bit more, and then understand that. Here's a question for you. Do you think that Rav Shaul, the Apostle Paul, actually read the Torah?
Yes, I do. I think he was a Torah scholar extraordinaire.
So what he was writing to Timothy was not his own original thoughts, but an outgrowth of his study of the Torah?
I would say so, yes.
So we should be able to take these words that he wrote to Timothy and then take them back into the Torah?
I think so.
And then maybe bring it forth from there into our own lives?
Okay.
Well, with that in agreement, let's go on a little journey here. And I want to start with this week's Torah portion, Barry, which is a very short one. It is the book of Devarim, Deuteronomy, chapter 32, and it is known as the Song of Moses.
Zeno.
And so let's go to chapter 32, verse 28. And it says, they are a nation without common sense. Boy, yeah, when the Almighty says to you that you're a nation without common sense, you need to start listening, okay? It says, utterly lacking in discernment, if they were wise, they could figure it out and understand. David Stern translates it as their destiny. If they were wise, they could figure it out and understand their destiny.
The Orthodox Jewish Bible that I have in pieces here says they would consider their accurate, in parentheses, latter end in future.
Well, let's take one more stab at this, Barry, and go over to Bereshit Genesis, which is Moshe's words to, or actually is Jacob's words to the 12 tribes, to the boys. On his deathbed, he said this: gather yourselves together, and I will tell you what will happen to you in the
Akarit Hamayim.
I mean, yeah, I know. You're going to have to buy a new one pretty soon because you can't even hold it up with two hands anymore.
No, it's It's not done.
Okay, so what's my point here? My point is this: that when Shaul was speaking to Timothy, and he was telling him what the last days would be, he was speaking not to the people that were out there in the world, but about a people who did not understand their own destiny and their own identity, and therefore would become a people that they should not be. Does that make sense?
I hear you. And that's in large part what we're dealing with, what we have today.
So when we read the words of they will be self-loving, money-loving, proud, arrogant, insulting, I mean, isn't that always read as, well, that's what the world is going to be?
Yes. And, since I was a child, I've heard this section preached that, well, this just shows that the rapture is getting ready to take place and we're at the last time. So this is what the world is. Therefore, that's the day.
But the last section of these verses is this: as they retain the outer form of religious practice, I added the word practice, of religious practice, but deny its power. Here's my thought for you, Barry, is that Shaul is not telling Timothy what the world will be like, but what religion will be like.
Mm-hmm.
Your thoughts?
Well, I had not had this thought prior to praying this morning, just a few minutes ago. It kind of unfolded out of prayer.
Isn't it amazing how things happen like that?
Well, I heard someone say that if you don't pray, you shouldn't preach.
Mm.
Because it's out of your prayer chamber that you preach.
Mm-hmm.
And it's true. Rav Shaul is writing this not to the world. He's not writing this so that the average person in any nation would pick it up and read it. He is not writing it specifically to those who would sit as a congregational member in some assembly. Directly, he is addressing this to a young pastor. An overseer is a term, or some translations use the word bishop. Timothy has been installed in what's the word I would use? A congregation that can at times be contrary, act aggressively, wasn't always walking uprightly. And Rav Shaul had instructed him, you need to reprove and rebuke, you need to set people in order. Those who are not leading congregations correctly, you need to correct them. Stand up, be a man. There's an anointing on you that is there through the laying on of my own personal hands. It was in the fire that's in you. It was in your mother, your grandmother. Now you stir up that fire. Rav Shaul has been very straight. Now we say he's a young man, but he's no kid. He's not, he's not a novice. He's been well trained in the word. Rav Shaul is writing to him and letting him know, as a shepherd, son, this is the way your sheep's going to act.
Yeah.
And knowing then that sheep are going to be, as described here, in negative terms, unloving, unforgiving, slanderous, no self-control, etc. As a shepherd, as one in a spiritual authority, don't just sit back and say, well, it's been prophesied. There's nothing I can do about it. No, these are all of these, if you want to call them vices, negative attitudes, however the term is, these are like pestilences, wolves and bears, coyotes that would seek to come in and grab people. Slander is a wolf. Unforgiveness is a wolf.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's a disease that wants to come in and infect your sheep. As a good shepherd, we're being called, be vigilant, pay attention, and you don't allow these things to happen. In the last days, this is the trend. Mike, this is not a given that all of our congregational members are going to end up walking this way.
Oh, no.
If we use due diligence, if the leadership, if congregational leaders, as shepherds, teachers, Yah help us, we need prophets that would stand up and declare this thing is a spiritual malady of some sort that is wanting to infect the body. We have been much more concerned about whatever the latest definition and name given to whatever the latest plague is going to come in and destroy the world that's been floating around. We've been much more afraid of that than we have been of the spiritual things. We have focused perhaps on physical ailments, and spiritual ailments have just hit like a landslide.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me take it like this, that this is what Shaul is speaking of here, this is the attitude of the world that is around them, that is going to be around us. He says in the last days. So this thing of self-loving, money-loving, going on and on, this is the attitude of the world, but the attitude of the world has infected, to use your word, infected those within our congregations.
Uh-huh.
And so it is basically, we are called to infect the world. But he's talking about a group of people that because they are denying the power of the gospel, they're allowing the world to infect them. So let's take a couple of these apart. They're self-loving. Now, Timothy, you are a servant, which means you are to, as Yeshua did, lay down his life for the people. You're to have that same attitude. You're to be a servant. You're to give of your life totally and completely, not loving yourself, but loving them, esteeming others greater than you are. But Timothy, don't expect that in return right away.
Mm-hmm.
You're to give of money loving. Here we're going. Here I'm going. You're to give of everything you have. You're to put your needs at times secondary to their needs. But Timothy, don't expect that in return right away. So Timothy, you're going to have to become something that is of such a nature that it causes people to depart from their very makeup and become somebody different.
Mm.
Am I in left field, right field, or
No?
maybe out in the parking lot?
John Maxwell said it very aptly years ago, leadership is influence.
Yeah.
So another way of saying that, and I've heard it said many times, I will not ask anyone to do something that I'm not willing to do myself, and haven't done and demonstrated X number of times. So as a leader, you demonstrate the righteous attitudes and mechanics, as they might be, life practices. Don't tell someone not to do one thing when you're doing it yourself. That's being hypocritical.
So don't preach to them about eating salad when you're eating coconut cream pie. or Leslie's banana pudding.
Hey, I encourage all to partake. Just leave me a corner section. All right.
That's right.
Have all of it you want.
Yeah.
No, the understanding, Mike, is that we lead by example. Uh, I know when I have prayed and I'm ready, and I'm ready to stand before the people and deliver to them what Yah says. I know those times where it's like, oh Yah, you're gonna have to help me here, because this week has been a whirlwind, and I've been caught up in the middle of it, and it's not been productive.
Mm-hmm.
We're human. We have those things going on. We were with some friends last night that came over, and they were talking about, we're here to serve.
Mm.
You don't find that heart everywhere. More often than not, people come and say, I'm here to get. I'm here to
Oh
receive.
yeah.
I'm here to receive my blessing. Wonderful. I hope you receive that. That's one level of walk. A higher level of walk is, I came with a word. I came with an encouragement. I came with a tongue or a prophecy or a gift to operate in. I'm here to edify and encourage someone else.
Mm-hmm.
If I receive, wonderful. But I'm here to impart, to have something to present, whether it's my act of worship or my act of giving or my act of encouragement to somebody. The purpose of gathering as a congregation is that when everyone leaves, two things have happened. Number one, our Messiah Yeshua has been exalted, glorified, and worshiped. And number two, that the people have been edified.
Mm-hmm.
That edification, that building, that mutual constructing, that mutual encouraging. Sometimes it comes through a word of reproof, sometimes it's through a word of correction, instruction, insight, however it is given. So what do? Mike, we provide an opportunity for them to sing, dance,
Mm-hmm.
celebrate, exalt him, meditate on the word,
Serve.
pray and seek the Father's face, to fellowship, to build up one another. I know a brother that is struggling with a congregation because the habit has been developed. Well, I can watch online now.
Yeah.
You can watch online, and there are some folks that they are in situations where they don't have anyone else, and so for the video satellite situation there where they can view online, I'm thankful, and we try to offer that. There, our mutual friend Priscilla out in Canada, she just doesn't have anyone around. There's
Mm.
not a lot going on in her.
Yeah, a lot of them.
You
A
know,
lot of those people are listening to us.
and they're everywhere. They are everywhere. But those that have an opportunity to be a part of a local congregation and say, I'll just sit home and watch, I'm not going to reprove or rebuke you, but I'm going to encourage you. You are missing out on two things. One is you're missing out on what someone can personally say to you or offer you or fellowship with you and share with you. And then secondly, your opportunity to return and do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
You can't do that watching on TV or watching on computer. It just doesn't work that way.
Well, let me, I'm known for being around the bush a lot. Let me say what you just,
Okay, I just don't want to spew on a computer.
let me say what you just said a little different. You can watch online, but you can't be a part.
True.
You're not a part.
You're a spectator.
You're as much a part if you're watching online when you have the ability to be somewhere in person. You're as much a part as a spectator in a stand watching a game. Don't say we won. No, we didn't do nothing. The guys down there on the field did something. You sat there and watched them. Now, is it possible, Barry, to be in that place as numerous people that we know are, and to still be a part? Yes, I believe it is. That when they watch House of David online, when they when they when they are part of a program like this or the numerous other programs that we do, they can be a part with a comment. They can be a part by sharing that. So when this goes up onto YouTube and to Facebook and to dogsled.com and all those, don't put it on dogsled.com. That's actually about dog sleds. But when you put it up on, when you share it with others, guess what? You're a part now. When you give to make these things, yeah, I talked about that as Shaul did. When you give to make some of these things possible, now you're a part of it. You're taking some ownership in it.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of, and the outgrowth, here I want to go to this, the outgrowth of self-loving is in 2 words: proud and arrogant. When a person walks into a congregation with their arms folded, sits there on the back row and says, and their basic attitude is this: well, bless me if you can, preacher. I dare you to try. That's arrogance. That's proud. That's, I'm not here to learn anything. I'm here to judge what you say. And the moment you say something that I don't agree with, I'm right, you're wrong. And I'm going to call you on it. I just saw a post on Facebook. I did something, Barry, that I'm trying to do. I just didn't respond. I'm trying more of that because I knew that if I responded, it wasn't going to make my Yom Kippur any better. Somebody posted something about, the self-proclaimed teachers and prophets online. Well, you know what they are? They're a self-proclaimed judge. How do we walk into a congregation? How do you approach someone that you disagree with? Dr. Sakina taught me that. Taught a lot. Oh, he slapped me in the face one time with it. Approaching someone that you disagree with in an appropriate manner, as opposed to walking up to the leader of the congregation and the first word out of your mouth is, well, I disagreed with what you said. Really? Well, maybe you didn't hear what I said. Maybe I said it wrong. Maybe I didn't communicate it well. But if the first words out of your mouth is this, I disagreed with what you said, sit down. Try to find some humility. And let's go at this thing again, because what you've done in your pride and arrogance is then entering into the third word, you've insulted. You become insulting with that kind of an attitude. Okay. Did I say that softly enough? Was that like, didn't you feel, clouds of puffiness and goose feathers?
Mike, I feel the love, brother. I'm going to rub it in. I just
shirts that,
I just want to bask in the glow of all of that. You have accomplished something other that many people have not been able to do. You left me speechless. I'm thinking about an old timer. I mean, an old timer. I was pastoring a church out in the mountains of Virginia, and his habit was, and I had been warned when I came out of the pulpit after finishing everything on Sunday morning. He sat on the front row so that he could grab me before anyone else and say, "That was good, preacher, but you know what you forgot?
Yeah.
He would relate a text,
Yeah.
that I could have used, and instead of saying, I enjoy what you said. And here's another thought I had.
Yeah.
Just phrasing it different. No, he wanted to be he wanted to be negative about it in some manner, and he said, "This is what you forgot, preacher. You
Mhm.
didn't say this." And after a month or two of that, because I was, new to the church, I said something to him, something along. No, I didn't forget it. I could have used that, but the Father told me not to.
Ouch.
Something like that. And I was very abrasive with him, and I watched his face fall. Well, he didn't come back. So uh, he was wrong, but I was as wrong.
Mm.
I could have tolerated an old man who thought he was doing a spiritual thing that he had been taught to do by somebody in their spiritual wisdom and let it go. But I didn't. But Mike, as the point would be, I was sent to that church for 2 years for a reason. I went into that congregation having had a successful pastorate just prior, resurrected a dead church, had gained a lot of knowledge about spiritual warfare and prayer and anointing and working with a community of pastors, etc. I had learned a lot. Yah grew me in our first church tremendously.
Yeah.
We barely survived at points, but Yah really did a work in us. And I thought I had a tool belt full of new shiny tools that I could use anywhere. What I didn't understand was, in Yah's eyes, I was a ship that was so laden with barnacles that I couldn't move. And he used a mountain congregation to knock the barnacles off my hull so I could move.
Mm.
And so those folks, the honeymoon lasted just a few months, just 2 or 3 months, and then the war was on. And every conflict, every moment of combat with those folks, I tried loving, I tried preaching, I tried anointing, I tried reproving, I tried everything that I knew to do, and all my shiny tools didn't work. But Yah used them to humble and break me so that when I came to Gloucester, where we are now, that I was ready to be a servant and not feel like I got this. As a leader, when we read these words, Mike, we have to understand nobody wants to pastor this congregation where all of these descriptives fit the people.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody wants to pastor a congregation where even one of them can describe them. And there's only one way to keep that from happening. You have to give an inoculating word against this disease. It is a spiritual it is a spiritual what's the word I'm looking for? It's a spiritual disease. I'll just use that is made up of many components that it will infect and influence the righteous. They can read this. There's one thing about them reading it and say, I don't want to be that way. But when the leader preaches this to them and says, here's where these things come in at, this is how these things work on us, then you begin to grow your congregation, that they build up an apt defense against it. So again, our word today, I think, is not to someone sitting in a pew or a chair or in their living room. It's to the leaders. Be vigilant and watch for these things, and don't allow them to take your sheep. It'll kill them.
And there comes a point, one of the things that I learned very, very early in ministry, and this month I celebrate the 17th of this month will be my 29th year in full-time ministry. it's very difficult sometimes to deal with the fact that you're called to serve those that don't want to be served. You're called to love those that don't want to be loved. And so we see what it's going to be like, that people are going to be, putting themselves first. They're going to be, and money loving is not just for rich people. The tithe was not just if you got over a certain number in your bank account. It was for all people. They're going to put themselves first physically, maybe not spiritually. They're going to put themselves first financially. They're going to be proud. They're going to be arrogant. But you've got to outserve. You got to come to the place of outserving someone so that they can begin to accept that attitude in their lives in order for them to say, wait a minute. And this is where John Maxwell, and I understand what he said. I term it a little different, is that leadership is based upon a principle in creation. Creation, I don't call it nature, I call it creation, abhors a void. You cannot have a void in creation. It was set forth in day one that a void was not able to be. It will draw something into it. So to me, leadership is creating a void others are drawn into. So in drawing them into that, they will then make the changes that are needed in order to become. And this is, Yeshua created a void the disciples were drawn into. The disciples created a void that others were drawn into. Shaul created one that Timothy was being drawn into. We're still being drawn into that void that Yeshua, that void of a righteous character and life submitted to the Father. That's the void that we're being drawn into today.
I want to close by addressing something that you mentioned a while ago online, that someone had said self-proclaimed teachers and so forth. And I've heard others say, I don't need a pastor. I don't need a shepherd. I don't need leadership. Ephesians chapter 4 shows that Yeshua himself has sent as gifts to the body this kind of leadership. He gave himself as emissaries and prophets, evangelists, shepherds, and teachers. Yeshua himself said, the harvest is great. You pray that the Father would send forth harvesters, laborers into his harvest. That's not a general call for anyone. That's skilled laborers who know how to discern between harvest and weeds.
Yep.
So let's join with Messiah.
There you go.
I'm not afraid of other shepherds or other teachers or other gifted people standing up and doing their gift. They're not in competition with me.
No.
They will labor beside of us. And so whether you are a leader or a beneficiary of leadership, pray that the Father in these last days will raise up effective leadership. And we thank you for you. Thank you, folks, for watching, for sharing on your social media. We love you. Encourage you to enjoy the benefit of an effective Yom Kippur.
And we're taking next week off for Sukkot, so see you in 2 weeks.
See you in 2 weeks. Till then, shalom.